I hold a lot of empathy for everything and sadness for things, and I feel like music is a way that I can redirect that energy.
This is A New Angle, and I'm your host, Justin Angle, marketing professor at the University of Montana. This podcast is my chance to speak with cool people doing awesome things in and around the great state of Montana. We are proudly underwritten by First Security Bank and Blackfoot. Hey folks, welcome back and thanks for tuning in. Okay, this week's episode is one I am really excited about, but it does require some setup. Many listeners ask me how I find guests for the show. Well, here's a classic example of how things often randomly come together. About a year ago, I participated in a panel discussion at the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival's Doc Shop. The panel was titled The Art of Sound, and it included a real sound expert, Heidi DeBose, the owner of Digital Sorcery. After the panel, Heidi and I kept in touch, and she introduced me to a young musician she was working with, Maiah Wynne. I was intrigued by Maiah's sound and her story, and we set up a time to record this interview during her recent visit to Missoula. Maiah is an inspiring young woman. She wrote her first song at age 7, started performing live here in Missoula at age 15, and is now, a few short years later, winning major recording and performing awards all over the country. In this conversation, Maiah gives us an inside look into the world of an up-and-coming musician. It's a story of creativity and hustle, and I was inspired by the poise and passion of this amazing young woman. Excited for you to learn more about Maiah and hear some of her music right now. Anyway, we're here today with Maiah Wynne. Maiah, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And I think we can claim you as a Missoula musician, right?
Definitely.
Hellgate High School graduate?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get started here. We're set up for sort of a live performance here in the studio. I'm going to let you get ripping with a song you recently won an award for. Tell us about that a little bit.
I did. Yeah, so there was a lot of amazing things that happened. I could honestly talk about it for hours. But the long story short is they had a song contest for the Apollo 11 50th anniversary celebration. And you had to write a song about space travel. And I wrote a song and it ended up winning. I got to go to the Space and Rocket Center in Alabama and perform for the astronauts and their families and won a bunch of awards and other amazing things like recording at Fame Studios. And it was an amazing experience. But yeah, this is that song.
Cool, yeah. Well, I'm excited to hear it.
Cool. This is Show the World. It's a great big world, and there's a little girl with a bright and beaming mind. She dreams of flying high, just like Apollo 69, and breaking through that hardened sky. One day she will show the world she has no fear, soaring far beyond the stratosphere. A modern day rocket man, I know she can change the world, rocket girl. And there's a little boy with space explorer toys. He dreams of going to the moon. He counts all of its craters like a human calculator, wishing he could visit someday soon. One day he will show the world he has no fear, soaring far beyond the stratosphere. A modern day rocket man, I know he can blaze a trail and rock this world. When they close their eyes, they see the astronauts on the TV, the ones from 1969, making steps for all mankind. Remember when they showed the world they had no fear, soaring far beyond the stratosphere. The original rocket men, they showed they can blaze a trail and change this world. For the modern day rocket man, I know he can blaze a trail and rock this world. She She's a modern day rocket man. I know she can change the world. Rocket girl.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I feel like compelled to clap, but it will not come through the microphones all that well.
Thank you.
How long did it take you to write that song?
Not very long.
You probably were under a time constraint with the competition.
I was. And I was nervous because I didn't think I was going to have time to enter. And I always get sidetracked with projects.
Sure.
And so I wasn't sure I really wanted to do it. It was a really cool contest. But I decided I was going to do it. And I just took some time to sit with a guitar. And I had plans to watch movies about space and the Apollo 11 missions. And I didn't even get that far before I wrote the song. It was just suddenly poured out of me.
It just came out.
Yeah.
Wow. And so what's the plan now with a song like that? Like record it and get it on an album and like all those big steps. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to record the song at Fame Studios while I was in Alabama for the contest. And it was an amazing experience. Fame Studios is legendary in the music world. Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Aretha Franklin, so many incredible musicians that are part of music history that recorded there. And I got to record there as well. And so I just felt like this tiny little fish in a giant sea of amazing, talented musicians, and I felt really special to just be in that space.
And what an opportunity. All the people you met and expose your work to, that's got to be really exciting.
It was extremely exciting.
Yeah. So was that the easy part or the hard part?
Ooh, that was definitely the hard part. Talking's easy.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So Maiah, you were in the midst of like this series of award-winning performances, recording songs on your, like, it seems like you're in this stage of your career where like you're about to pop big time. Does it feel that way?
Oh, I hope so. It's hard to get your hopes up because it's never a promised thing, you know? So you want it to happen, and I hope for it to happen, but you never know.
And you've been at this a long time. You started performing live, at age 15?
Yeah. So 7 years now, almost 8 years. It's crazy to me.
How did you kind of summon the courage to want to do that?
I think when I was younger, I was a lot more confident than I am now, which is funny. But 15-year-old me was very confident. I was a very outwardly weird person. So I did get nerves, but I think I was just comfortable in my own skin, and that included singing and performing and making mistakes, and I definitely have made a lot of them on stage, and it's allowed me to grow and sort of continue this path because it's a challenge to get up in front of people and perform.
Yeah, unbelievable. Now, were you writing your own songs right from the start?
Yeah, I wrote my first song in 7th grade. It was for an art thing, and I didn't want to paint something. I wanted to write a song.
Okay.
So I wrote a song. They didn't know what to do with it because it was sort of for an art submission from the school.
Breaking the rules, yeah.
I broke the rules and I wrote a song. They were like, "This is great, but this is not at all what we were hoping to get."
It's funny. I do this little. You're catching me sort of right toward the end of the semester, and I have this like little shticky Justin's rules of business, and one of the things we talk about is like, if you're going to break the rules, you got to do it really, really, really well. Right?
Yeah.
Like breaking the rules in such a way that's boring. Nobody cares about that. And you'll probably get in trouble, but it sounds like you knocked it out of the park. By breaking the rules, doing something different, but blowing away people's expectations.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. I mean, 7th grade me would be so happy that you're saying that. I hope so. It was exciting for me to have the opportunity to write a song for something, and it sort of blossomed into a lot of different songs.
Sure, and started performing here around town in high school, the Top Hat, the Badlander, all the local spots.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What was it like, kind of grinding it out as a high schooler?
It was fun. It was. There was a weird juxtaposition between going out and playing these shows and then going to a school, because I had just moved here when I was 15. So my junior year, I actually went to Loyola for 1 year. And I didn't really know anybody. I was sort of known as the weird girl that did music. And it felt like two different worlds. And I remember there was one show I did at a coffee shop, and they were having an art display nearby with a lot of the students from the school's art. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of kids from that school, and they all came to the show. And that was like the first time those two worlds had combined for me.
You found your people.
Yeah, and it was really cool to see that they did support it, and I started to make more friends after that. But up until that point, it felt like I was living in two different worlds, pursuing this dream of music and then going to the school and trying to, navigate high school, which is always a challenge too.
Yeah. Yeah. So you came here, you went to Loyola for 1 year and then switched to Hellgate for your senior year.
Yeah. And I
that's just hard. Even if you're like quarterback of the football team, that's hard to move around.
Yeah. I only went to Hellgate technically for 1 day before I did the online classes.
Oh.
And I interned for actually Troy's sound company, and I learned how to do sound for film. So I was working and doing my online classes that last year and pursuing music. And I think that was the same year I went to, or maybe it was the year after, I went to Sundance and I got to do a feature performance at Sundance, which is amazing. But yeah, I was really working hard to pursue these dreams from a young age and still trying to finish school and navigate school and do a good job, because there's that side of me that I come from a family of math professors and engineers. And so there's still that part of me that's like, no, I need to do a good job and make sure I'm getting good grades. But I still really wanted to do music. Yeah.
So you knew kind of in that time that music was going to be your career pursuit.
Yeah, I was really, really hoping for it. And I wasn't really making it a debate at that point. I was like, no, this is what I'm doing.
You were all in.
Yeah, I was all in for sure.
And how did that opportunity to go to Sundance come about?
That was through the Montana Film Office.
Okay.
They have a sort of party for the Montana Film Office at Sundance. And I got to play there for that party. And I just remember people talking about all the famous people that they just saw walking down the street and how nervous I was. And somebody said that, oh yeah, Selena Gomez was in there for like 2 minutes. I was so nervous, but it was so exciting at the same time. And it's the first time I went and bought clothes specifically to look fashionable.
Okay.
You
you got to look the part down there, I'm sure.
But like winter fashion, I don't even know.
Fancy boots and all that.
Fancy boots and some cool sweaters, and that was actually one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. And we ended up in this crazy scenario where we were hanging out with a group of very well-known people like Tegan and Sarah and Kristen Stewart and Clea Duvall, and somehow we ended up in this group of people, and I was so nervous because every part of me was screaming, you don't belong here.
Imposter syndrome.
Like, I don't know why. And we were in this sectioned off area, and it was my first time hanging out with anybody famous, and there was people taking pictures, and I felt it was the coolest experience. And so of course after that it was just that was the story I was telling to people for like 3 years because it was the coolest thing I'd ever gotten to experience.
And you were kind of right there in the mix, rubbing elbows with these other people. And it's funny, that story reminds me of a story we had on the podcast previously from John Pierce, a songwriter, saying he just sort of was playing music around Bozeman, and he showed up at this party, and it happened to be at this guy named Costas's house. Costas is famous songwriter, lives in Belgrade and Nashville, and Costas just looked at him and said, "What the hell are you doing in Bozeman?" So it sounds a little similar. Like you find yourself in this group at Sundance, and it makes you feel like maybe you belong. And accumulation of these experiences have to be helping with your confidence and your craft.
Absolutely, absolutely, and especially seeing that people like that, like musicians I look up to, like Tegan and Sarah, they were wonderfully kind and gave me advice. And it's very clear that they're just regular people. There's the facade of fame, and everybody has this idea of what someone's going to be like when you meet them. And when you meet them, you realize, oh, they're just really regular people, and they're really kind and easy to talk to, and they just have a lot more weird things to deal with in their life than the average person. But yeah, it gave me a lot of confidence, and it was cool to sort of get a taste of what the future might be like, if I keep working towards things. And I feel like I'm making my way towards that, and I keep getting little glimpses of what those worlds are like.
Sure. Maybe tell us a little bit about that chronology. So what happens after Sundance, and you leave high school? At what point do you move to Portland? And,
so I actually moved to Butte for a year.
Okay.
I don't remember why.
Yeah, that's not like the typical as a musician would draw it up. I'm going to go from Missoula to Butte, but
I'm really glad that we did. I wasn't there for very long. I think originally we had maybe plans to work on some projects there because there's so many beautiful buildings and spaces that you can do a lot of things with. And I made a lot of friends in Butte, but we weren't there for very long before. So Heidi is my manager and a really good friend of mine, and she got a really great opportunity in Portland, and she's been helping me with my music career, and I couldn't do this without her and without Troy, and they've done so much for me. And they got this opportunity in Portland, and she invited me to come, be their roommate, come to Portland, and I said yes because it's such a great music city, and there's so many opportunities there, and it seemed like a good step forward. And it's been great, and there's a huge music community in Portland. But after that, I've won quite a few awards. I won an international music contest called Claim to Fame, and that took me to LA, and I got some mentorship opportunities, and that led me to Andy Curran, who I'm working on an EP with. It's a collaborative EP with him and Alex Lifeson from Rush, which is crazy. So that led me into some really cool circles of people. And I've just been working on a lot of collaborations with really amazing musicians, and I've been touring a lot more, growing my fan base, working on my own music, writing, and just taking every opportunity that I can without getting too sidetracked.
Yeah. So like these awards, and you've accumulated a lot of them. We'll talk about some of them. The Claim to Fame in particular. So something like that happens. It's not only this award and there's some cash and that's all exciting, but there's also like, didn't it put you into this coaching opportunity with the American Idol folks and some
definitely.
Some stuff that's really going to develop you as a musician, I would think.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I got to have sort of a mentorship and coaching session with some of the American Idol vocal coaches and music coaches, and that was a really amazing experience, and getting to sort of see the behind the scenes of what a lot of those artists are doing to protect their voices, to develop their sound, and how they listen to a song, and the changes they'd make to make it better. And it was really cool to get that opportunity to sort of start seeing things from those different perspectives of people in the industry.
Could you tell me something about that? Like I when you're saying protect their voices and protect their sound, and I think about it, like the only thing I can think about is like as an athlete, like I'll pay attention to recovery, like run a race and ice my legs or something like that, right? But like, how does it work with the vocalist?
It's similar. You want to stretch out your vocal cords before you're using them. And I haven't been doing, if I'm being honest, I haven't been doing a great job of it on this tour. But you want to warm up your voice. And, there's a lot of silly warm-ups out there. I think a lot of people make jokes about them because they are silly and you feel silly doing them. But they're funny sounds that you make with your voice, but it does help stretch out those muscles.
You're begging me to put you on the spot, Maiah.
There's like... there's a lot of really weird ones, but there's like the lip buzzy things, the kind of silly ones. And then there's sirens, and you go from the top of your register to the bottom, and like, ooh, kind of things. There's some other weird ones that people do that I don't do, but they get kind of aggressive and weird, and they do tongue twisters, and some people they have a very strict warm-up routine they do, and people will do them. I've read about musicians doing them on the subways in New York City, and you just have to get used to being weird in front of people because it's part of the gig, I guess.
Well, it makes total sense, though. I mean, it's you're getting ready for a performance that uses your body. You see athletes do it all the time, and we don't sort of make fun of them, but like you watch what football players and basketball players are doing on the field or the court before the game. They look pretty darn silly.
That's true.
Yeah. That's interesting. So as you've sort of, you're still young, right? But 8 years into this, you got to take care of this. This is your voice is your moneymaker, right? Like, and it's the only voice you have for the rest of your life too. Outside of that, like, not only the warming up, and I don't need to make this a podcast about your voice, but like, what do you do to preserve it? Like after a show, do you kind of
I think
drinking green tea now. So that's part of it.
Tea is definitely important. Honey is really good for your throat. Taking vocal rest, which is really challenging for me. because it's so important. Communication, you don't realize how important communication is until you can't really communicate the way that you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to go long periods of time without talking. And when you're on tour and you're working with people and interfacing with people, so that's a huge challenge. And especially when you're talking with fans after the show, you can't really, you have to talk to people.
Yeah.
So it's really hard, but a really important part of that is taking vocal rest and spending as much time as possible between shows not talking. As I'm talking about that, but
right. Here we are on a podcast. Now I feel terrible.
No, don't.
Let's wrap it up. A New Angle is brought to you by First Security Bank and Blackfoot, two cool companies doing awesome things all over Montana.
This is John Twiggs with Montana PBS, and you're listening to A New Angle.
That's enough. I'll just talk the rest of the time. No, nobody wants to hear that.
But yeah, honey, there's lots of different, everybody has their own sort of, I guess, medicinal practices that they use, and what works for everybody's a little bit different. But there's lots of vocal warm-ups, warm-downs, cool-downs, I guess, and just getting yourself in a place where you're relaxing the muscles in your neck, too, because it can get really tense, especially in the shoulder and neck area, and that affects your vocal cords. And there's a lot that you can do to sort of protect those. A lot of singers get vocal nodes, and some of them have to have surgery, and that can be really scary because it changes the way it's muscle memory. So much of singing is muscle memory. So if something changes in there, what used to feel like a C is now a C sharp, and you're singing everything sharp all of a sudden because everything's a little wonky.
A little off, yeah.
Or some people lose their voices for periods of time, and that can be devastating for singers because that's their one tool that they have, and that's their life. So it's important, and I'm still learning how to take better care of mine. As I said, I haven't been doing
well,
the
probably
best job.
like most people, right? Like you'll start paying attention more as you get a little older and blah, 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 the typical thing. Let's talk about the Battle of the Bands, right? Because you play second in the KEXP?
Yeah.
Battle of the Bands. I mean, when I lived in Seattle, I used to love that event.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Oh, that was such an amazing experience. So the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle puts on this 21 and under Battle of the Bands because they want to support up-and-coming musicians. It's open to anybody in the Northwest. And I entered, I saw an advertisement for it, and I thought it sounded really cool, and I entered, and they only select 12 each year, and they have a panel of people that select the musicians for each year.
Yeah, what's the entry process like? Do you have to send in a demo or something?
Yeah, you send in music, pictures, a bio, a little bit about you, what makes you different than other people, which is it's hard to write a bio to begin with, but especially it's hard to talk about what makes you unique because who knows.
Yeah, what was your pitch? What did you say made you different?
I don't even remember. I mean, I wear butterfly wings when I perform, so that's something, but that's not really music related. That's just something that makes me weird, I think.
I don't know if it makes you weird, but it's certainly something that breaks through.
Yeah, it's
because now I'm thinking of it, like
interesting.
I want to go see Maiah perform to see the butterfly wings.
Yeah, we have some new ones that light up. It's pretty cool. But I think that was part of it, and just about how many different genres my music spans. In that one set that I performed during that Battle of the Bands, I played a rock song, a folk song. I played a different instrument for every song. I played the drum kit for one song. I played, a guitar, banjo, ukulele, keyboard, drum pad. I was playing more than one song. I played 4 instruments at the same time.
Wow.
So I think a lot of those things stand out when you're in a world full of extremely talented musicians. But yeah, I think that all of those things were part of my pitch. Sometimes I write those things and submit because you never expect to get into things like that. And I had completely forgot that I submitted to it when I got the email when they're like, hey, you're in, congratulations. And I forgot that I even submitted to it because I try to forget because I don't want to get my hopes up for things. And so it's always this amazing surprise that I was chosen for this really cool contest. And it was an amazing experience. They're doing a lot to support up-and-coming musicians in Seattle. It's really cool to see.
Talk about the decision to become talented at so many different instruments. I mean, what drives that?
That's a good question. I think I sort of became obsessed, almost addicted to learning instruments. I taught myself guitar, and then uke, and then mandolin, and I took lessons for piano when I was really young, and I found a passion for it through that. And I had never really thought about teaching myself anything until I came across this old guitar that my dad had that he never played or never learned how to play, and I kept stealing it and teaching myself songs on it. And by that point there were already tutorials on YouTube, and now it's just they're everywhere. It's so easy. It's easier than ever to learn how to play an instrument, and being able to just look up online, how do I play this instrument? And there's thousands of videos showing you what to do. It became this sort of addiction almost, because it was so exciting to learn, and it felt really fulfilling to learn something new, and something that allowed me to express myself in a new way. And so I just kept going, and I asked for an instrument every year for my birthday,
Sure.
Something else,
Yep.
This year I want drums, this year, I want a ukulele, this year I would like this weird instrument, this dulcimer.
And is there a pressure to focus, or are your parents and support system saying, oh yeah, sure, try this, try that? Like, how's that working?
Yeah, I think most of my family isn't super musical, especially my immediate family. And I think there's sort of, where my brother was asking for like the newest iPod, I was asking for, a drum kit. And,
Yeah.
like at that point, they're like the same price. You can get this beginner's drum kit for, I think they got me one for like $100. And, so it doesn't make a difference to them. It's more like price points. Okay, like we just got to make it even. Or
Sure.
get your brother
Just
the
manage
thing,
equity.
the one big thing for your brother, the one big thing for you. And
Right.
it's nice because there are pretty cheap beginners instruments that you can find. And I think it was easy for them to support it because I was, I wasn't out partying or doing anything crazy. I was just spending hours and hours by myself making loud noises on the drums and different
It
instruments.
seems like a totally healthy investment.
Yeah,
for a
exactly.
Family. Absolutely.
I think so. I think
Job well done.
Yeah.
Do you get any pressure in the industry, as you're trying to sort of break in as a performer, trying to get a record deal, any of that stuff? Like, are people saying, hey, you got to focus on this? Or do people just embrace it? Like, oh yeah, you can do everything. You're so versatile.
Oh, definitely. There's a lot of pressure, and the problem is everybody has differing opinions on things.
Yeah.
So you go to one person who's been in the industry for years, and they have these specific opinions on, you got to focus on these things, and you should be doing this. You should be signing to a small label and releasing a record and doing these things. And then you talk to somebody else who's been in the industry for a while, but they're a little bit younger, and they're like, no, that's the past. You got to focus on the new industry, and you got to work on EPs, release something every month. You got to focus on your brand, your image, your Instagram, follow all the new stuff. And there's so much pressure to be on top of everything all at once, to do everything. And, there's people who want you to fit into a specific genre. They want you to be easily definable because it's easier to market. And then there's people who want you to do everything because you're more likely to get successful if you're everywhere at once. And so it's hard because I want to do the thing. I want to do the right things and make the smart moves, but it feels like it's really hard to know which one is the right one, and it feels like you're constantly guessing.
Yeah, and then within that, like, you're trying to do art.
Right? Yeah.
And so how do you reconcile that?
It's easy to lose track of the art within marketing and planning and the business side of things. I've learned a lot about the business side of things, and I'm recognizing that more in myself now, that I overthink because I've been taught how to overthink about everything now.
Yeah.
And so it's hard not to overthink, and I catch myself now, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing that thing. And now I'm getting better at coming back to my heart and following my heart, because I've noticed that I can overthink and overanalyze things to death for days and never come up with a solid answer for anything. But if I follow what I want to do, I know I will be happy with it, in the end. I will go back to that recording, I'll go back to that choice and think, oh, I did the thing that I really was passionate about and wanted to do in that moment. So that's sort of my plans right now, is to try to think about the business side of things, but also throw it away at the same time, which is hard.
I mean, that seems like pretty good clarity, right? Like staying true to yourself and putting yourself in the care of good people.
Yes.
Help you make smart decisions, Heidi and Troy in that group.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's probably all you can hope for.
Yeah.
So I want to be respectful of your time and protecting your voice, but I do want to ask you about this big deal that's coming up in the near future. You are going to be performing at Mopop's Founders Award. This award that they're giving to Brandi Carlile. How did that come to be? How do you get selected for something like that, and how do you feel about it?
Oh, I'm so excited, and so that came about through the competition that I was in, through Mopop and KEXP. And they sort of have this archive of young musicians, and each year at the Founders Awards, they highlight one of those young musicians that they've sort of helped propel into the spotlight. And I think it just, they try to find people that match the musical vibe of the evening, and sort of, I don't know what the process is for them to choose, because there's so many talented musicians, and I'm sure it has to be really challenging to choose just one, and they didn't choose just one. They chose me, and I made 2 friends in that competition who I hadn't met before, but they were also from Oregon, and they're a female rock duo called Dreadlight, and we've been collaborating a lot, and they've become some of my closest friends, and they saw some of the collaboration videos we were doing, and they were like, we want both of you. So we're performing as a trio. We're doing one of their songs, one of my songs, and then we get to cover one of Brandi's songs, which is super nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
It's exciting, but it's also performing somebody's song to them.
I can't even imagine.
So I'm really, I want to make sure it's really good.
So you're performing it to Brandi while she's there to win this major award. Wow. That's a moment.
Yeah. And I'm super excited. We are hopefully going to get to meet her, and she's just such an inspiration, and she's such a huge advocate for so many amazing things, and for lifting up female voices, and an advocate for the LGBT community. And she's just a beautiful person, not to mention obviously incredibly talented. So I'm incredibly excited for the opportunity to get to perform in front of her and possibly meet her. So yeah, that's super exciting for me.
Well, we're rooting for you at that event. And before we close, I wanted to give you an opportunity. You mentioned how Brandi Carlile supports important social causes, and you do as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you've lent your voice and talents to the environment, to the arts, to indigenous causes. Talk a little bit about how you've been using your platform to help others.
Absolutely. I think a huge part of the reason I make music is because I am passionate about everything and inspired by everything, and also emotionally invested in the world. I hold a lot of empathy for everything and sadness for things, and I feel like music is a way that I can redirect that energy in a way that can be lucrative, in a way that can help causes. And it's been an amazing thing for me to be able to take something like music that is so easy to become egocentric, and I'm aware of that issue in music because it's my face everywhere, it's my name everywhere, it's my music, it's me, it's my Instagram, and I'm constantly inundated with my face and me and promoting myself, and it's a way for me to take some of that and redirect it to causes that I believe in, and do something good for other people, do something good for the environment. And so, I think it's a really nice way to take something that can easily become so self-centered in a way, and make it more about everything else that I want to help in the world. And I'm only done just little bits so far, and I have so many plans, and I'm finding ways that I can implement them along the way as I grow. And it's been really amazing to get those opportunities to help other things and other people. And so for the environment, and this latest song that I released, Fearless Girl, is raising awareness for MMIW USA, which is Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. And we've been partnered for this song, so 10% of all of the sales go to them. And then the music video is raising awareness for them. And they're doing amazing things to help these women. And there's not enough being done to help them. And they're statistically at a much higher likelihood to go missing and to be hurt in their lives. And there's not enough being done to protect these women. And it's heartbreaking to learn about it. And I feel like as a person, as a white woman in this world, it's something that I can do to at least help raise awareness, to help provide a platform to lift up their voices. And in this weird way, you know, there's this issue that's facing a lot of women in the world, and my own experiences. And it was this thread that was connecting us. And so this song that I wrote that was originally just about my experiences and the experiences of my best friend growing up became about the experiences of women around the world, and not just women, men as well. And it's become this thing that is so much bigger than me, and I couldn't be more happy about that. It's been a really emotional journey and a really beautiful journey, and I can't be more happy that it is now helping raise the voices of the most marginalized community of women that, you know, they need that, and they need that support right now. And so I couldn't be more grateful for that happening.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for coming in here. Tell us before we close how people can learn more about your work, how they can find your music, listen to it, consume it, maybe even buy it, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's it's hard to buy music these days.
It is hard, yeah.
But you can buy me music. We're about to start an online store, but you can find my music everywhere online. Spotify, iTunes, my website, and that's MaiahWynne.com. My name is kind of a weird spelling. But
I love
the
sticker
everywhere.
on your van. It has the pronunciation.
It does.
It's perfect.
We've gotten a lot of really weird pronunciations. I think Maiah was the...
Maiah, that's
Maiah
pretty good.
was
Throwing in a bunch of extra syllables.
That was the weirdest one I got.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, awesome, Maiah. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming in. You just have wisdom and grace beyond your years, and we're really excited. One, that you've shared your talents with Switchback Records here. One of your songs was on their first release, and it's just all the best. And we were excited to see what lies ahead in your career.
Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful being here. You're awesome.
All right, and now we give you a special bonus track from Maiah. Enjoy some more of her amazing music right now.
Do you ever feel the weight of it all? Like a house of cards ready to fall, and it builds, it breaks your walls. It builds, it tears you apart. But I don't wanna feel like this anymore. No, I don't wanna feel like this anymore. I'm trying to keep my head up high, my head up high, keep my head up high, my head up. But my head keeps hanging low. Ooh, my head keeps hanging low. And it gets harder every day. Ooh, to keep on living life this way. It's hard to keep it up. No, and everything is keeps hanging low. It's getting low, 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 low. It's getting low, 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 low. But I'm trying to keep my head up, my head up high, my head up, my head up high. Keep my head up high, my head up, but my head keeps hanging low.
All right, that one was super fun. I think we'll be hearing much more from Maiah in the years to come, so stay tuned. Okay, coming up next week, we have the final episode in our Sea Change series, and we sort of close where we started with a conversation with University of Montana Regents Professor of History, Anya Jabbour. This time, Anya is joined by her colleague, Professor Beth Hubble, Director of the University of Montana's Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies program. Stay tuned for that conversation next week. Thanks for listening to A New Angle. We really appreciate it. And we're coming to you from Studio 49, a gift from University of Montana alums Michelle and Lauren Hansen. And remember that A New Angle is supported by CED, Consolidated Electrical Distributors. These guys pretty much sell anything electrical you would ever need, but they also hire a ton of our students. If you want to learn more about jobs at CED, visit cedcareers.com. Before we go, I want to thank some important peeps, executive producer Stefan Borsum, and interns Aspen Runkle and Max Gibson. Huge thanks to VTO, Jeff Ament, and John Wicks for the tunes, and finally, props to Jeff Meese, our master of all things sound. Finally, if you have any questions, suggestions, comments, insults, whatever, please email me at anewangle@umontana.edu. Help us spread the word, and be sure to use the hashtag #anewangle when you do. Thanks a lot, and see you next time.